could share with me a little bit about really your interaction of how brain injury came to be a part of something where you knew that phrase in terms of how it affected your family.
Well, my son has the brain injury. His name is Joey, and he wrecked his truck. I think it's been 20 years ago. Next year will be 20 years ago. So it's been a while for me. But when he wrecked, he was thrown from the truck. So when he hit the ground, that was his first brain injury, when his head hit the ground. And then the truck was flipping over and it rolled over his upper body and head. The truck rolled over his head. So that was his second brain injury. So he ended up, he was near Columbus, Georgia. So we were doing this, in Georgia. Had a, great doctors, a great hospital. He ended up being paralyzed on his right side. He was in a coma for a week, and then he was in ICU for 3 weeks, I think. And, he went from zero. I mean, we almost lost him several times to gradual, if he could blink, we'd say, oh, at least he can blink. If he moved a finger, we were like, oh, he can move a finger, But he was paralyzed on his right side. They thought he was going to be blind in both eyes. They were so black and swollen, they really couldn't tell. But he ended up losing his left eye. So he now has a prosthetic left eye. His face was crushed because the truck rolled over his head. So he had to have brain surgery to remove some bone fragments. And then he had to have facial reconstruction surgery too. And now he has a seizure disorder, which is a cause from the brain injury. But I will say his recovery has been just amazing. He has regained almost 100% use of his right side, but he's left-handed now because he had to relearn how to do everything with his left hand. He's able to drive, he's able to work. He still has memory issues and, a little speech trouble sometimes, but he'll always need some help with things. He still lives with us. He could live alone, but he just still needs help with, some things. And so we're happy to have him here with us. We were not in Alabama, so we didn't get to go to Spain. We went to the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. In the hospital, they kept saying, well, we'll get him to the Shepherd Center and he'll be great. And they kept saying the Shepherd Center. And I'm like, what is the Shepherd Center? I'd never heard of it. I didn't know. And they said, well, it's a, hospital rehabilitation center. So we got there finally. The lady came to evaluate him to go into the Shepherd Center. I don't know about Spain, but you have to be able to answer yes or no, or respond yes or no in some way. And Joey could not. He had a trach, and he couldn't even nod or shake his head. So finally one day I said, well, Joey, can you do this? And he did that. I said, that's yes. And I said, dude, this is no. And so he could answer yes or no. Or respond, to somebody's questions. So after that, when a spot opened up, we took him up to Shepherd Center, and we were there for months and months and months. And they were fantastic. But like I said, he's working and driving, and to go from zero to where he is now is just, you say it's a miracle, but I mean, it really, really is a miracle that he's where he is today. So we're very thankful.
Elaine, I have to ask you a question because I'm always blown away by this. The level of detail for something that was 20 years ago that you were able to give, is that because it is so burned in your mind? Is it because you shared that so many times, or is it just,
it's kind of burned in your mind. When you go through something like that, you don't forget it. I I mean, that was our life. That was our life for at least a year, closer to a year and a half. You know, all we did all day long, all night long was, you know, focused on Joey and his recovery. They told us that the most recovery comes in the first year after the accident. So you want to get as much in there, you know, as much rehab as you can in there during that first year, you know, as much as they're able. They had told us he would be in one of those wheelchairs with the little button thing, you know, the little toggle switch to drive it, that he would never walk or talk. They told us he wouldn't live. They said if he does live, he'll be a vegetable the rest of his life. And he has certainly proved them wrong. So you know, it makes you want to, yeah, you want to go back and tell those doctors, look, you don't tell people that, you know. And there was one little doctor, she was a resident or an intern or whatever. And every time I saw her in the, you know, in the hall, you know, your son, if he lives, he's going to be a vegetable. And I was just like, I'd say, okay, you know, and I'd just keep walking. I'd just say, I don't want to hear that. And he just, every day, it was, you know, a little bit of improvement. The day, you know, you remember things. Of course, we took a lot of pictures, which helps, but you remember the day he stood up. My husband helped him get up and stand up, and he had to hold him, of course. But the doctor at the hospital had said if you know, he can't stand flat on his feet and support himself, and he did. He stood there. My husband had to hold him, but he stood there, and we're like, look, they were ready to order the wheelchair. I mean, they, you know, let's go ahead. And we were like, no, no. And so when he saw that he could stand up, you know, he started, well, you know, let's start doing more rehab or therapy or whatever. Of course, when you get to the Shepherd Center, probably Spain too, I mean, it's hardcore. I mean, it is boot camp. I mean, they are tough, but they do that because you've got a year. You know, that first year, the lady from Shepherd Center, she said, you know, with a brain injury, you never know what you're going to get, what you're going to end up with. She said, with a spinal cord injury, because they do spinal cord and brain, that's all they do at Shepherd. She said, with spinal cord injury, you kind of get what you get. But with a brain injury, you never know how much recovery you're going to get. And that was certainly true, you know, in his case. Thank goodness. She was one of the first ones. She said, it's going to be okay. She said, it's going to be okay. You know, it may be different, but it's going to be okay. And I would just tell myself that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Well, thank you.
Got it?
Mm-hmm. And Elaine, again, question is slightly different for you in terms of the second question, in terms of really what, and you're welcome to address both or just one side of this, but obviously, I'm sure Joey has had things that he has struggled with as a result of his brain injury, but in your perspective as a caregiver, I think that people sometimes don't always appreciate the impact that it has on those that are surrounding the individual who's living with the brain injury. So I'll let you kind of speak to whatever you want to, but would love to hear if you could share what you have struggled with as a caregiver in terms of knowing, kind of being thrown into serving in a role that was unexpected, and trying to figure a lot of things out. So if you could share that with us, I would certainly appreciate it.
Okay. I would say, as a caregiver, I guess on the emotional side, I have struggled with seeing the deficits that Joey has now. As a parent, it hurts to see your child with physical issues or mental health issues. You know, you just want to make it better. You're a parent. You just want to make things better, and you can't. You can help them with things as much as they'll let you. And you can be there for them, but you can't make it go away. And, you know, so many times, you know, they scrape their knee. You want to make it better. You can't make a brain injury better. You're always on duty. You're always on alert. 24/7. You never know when somebody's going to have a seizure, or something's going to happen, a medical emergency, or he can get frustrated at work and just lose it, and so you're pretty much on duty around the clock. It's hard to relax. It's hard to leave because you're afraid something's going to happen, and he's going to need you to be there to see about the seizure or talk him down from something that happened at work that he got upset about. The support group meetings for me have been very helpful because the people in the support group, their children have been through the same things and that Joey has been through, and they're dealing with the same issues that I'm dealing with. And you just understand everybody else's situation because you've been there, you've been through it, and you kind of know what they're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So the support group has been nice. The Zoom support groups, we're not meeting in person anymore, but I've really thought they were helpful and informative too. We've had some good speakers, and I've really enjoyed them.
I appreciate you sharing that, and I mentioned that you're an interesting case in the fact that, I mean, obviously Joey's recovery has, you mentioned him being at work and everything else. His recovery has been nothing short of miraculous, but it's also interesting in the fact that Joey himself is not a client of the Alvin Henninger Foundation, but you are, and that is an interesting piece in terms of our willingness and ability to work with you as a caregiver. And a lot of that situation. So we are glad that you have found the caregiver support groups, and really appreciate you taking part in those and sharing with others too. So thank you for that.
I'll say this, and I think it's true of a lot of brain injury survivors, which affects the caregivers. Joey thinks he's fine from day one. From the minute he was able to speak or write, he thinks he's fine. He doesn't think he has any problems. He doesn't think he has any deficits. He always thought, I can drive, I can do this, I can do that. He just didn't see that he had a problem. And somebody was talking about God leading them through. He definitely led us through little things like Joey had a skull fracture all the way around his skull. And when you have a brain injury, your brain swells. And that skull fracture basically saved his life because it allowed his brain to swell. Every time we needed to know something, God put somebody in our path to explain it to us or tell us, well, this is what we're going to do next. This is what's going to happen next. The night the wreck happened, the doctor, the neurologist, or neurosurgeon told us, this is going to be long-term. You're going to be dealing with this for a long time. He said he's going to be in the hospital for at least 6 to 8 weeks. And he got us referred to the Ronald McDonald House, which was right there next to the hospital. And, that started the ball rolling. And I thought, oh boy, this is not good. But like I said, you're just so happy they're alive, and you're blessed that they're still with you, that you just take whatever comes and deal with it the best way you can. That's all you can do. But it helps to have people to talk to, and sometimes we give each other ideas on how to deal with situations. So, that's helpful.